Purdy Peacock, Holiday Dreams. Purdy Peacock loved his life on his beautiful farm. He enjoyed being around his family and friends, and he loved his beautiful golden-colored barn. When fall arrives and the holidays approach, Purdy remembers his younger days and all of the things that happened during those times. Purdy would remember that all of the other Peachicks at school would tell him about how many places they had to go to for Thanksgiving, and that there was so much food that they could not begin to eat it all. They would tell Purdy they were just stuffed at Thanksgiving. Purdy just could not imagine that. When he was a young Peachick, Purdy and his family did not have very much food, and Purdy did not have any place to go on Thanksgiving. They would stay home and relax and eat whatever they had. He remembers one Thanksgiving when they had only 1 ear of corn each, and that was all of the food that they had. They all enjoyed themselves and made the best out of what they had. After Thanksgiving would come Christmas. Once again, Purdy's young friends at school would tell him that they were invited to so many parties that they could not attend them all. Young Purdy's family was never invited to any fancy parties. When his grandmother was alive, they would go to her house on Christmas Eve. They had a wonderful time, but there were no other parties to attend or places to go. It did not bother Purdy, but he just could not imagine what it would be like to have so many parties to go to. Being extremely poor, the only way they would have a Christmas tree was to find a small tree alongside the road. It would not be a very big tree, and it was never a very pretty tree, but it was a tree, and they would put handmade ornaments on it, and they would have a great time. It was always so much fun. Thinking about his life was making Purdy sleepy. He fell asleep and began dreaming. He was dreaming about Christmas and all of the beautiful lights. He dreamed about the biggest and most magnificent Christmas tree he could ever imagine. It was a great dream. Then he was dreaming about a family. There was a mother, father, and 3 children. The father worked very hard, but did not make very much money. The family barely had enough money to pay their bills and to put a little bit of food on their table. They had a very hard time keeping up with everything. At Thanksgiving they were so poor that they did not have money to buy food. One Thanksgiving all they had was 1 hot dog for each person. The children would cut out the shape of a turkey from paper and cut a slit in the hot dog and put the paper-shaped turkey in the hot dog. Then they could say that they had turkey for Thanksgiving. They were quite creative and thought that was a lot of fun. They enjoyed their hot dog turkey dinner and watched television and played games the rest of the day. They made the best of a bad situation. Christmas was an extremely hard time for the family. The children wanted a Christmas tree, but they could not afford to buy one, that is for sure. The father would cut down small trees from the side of the road. The trees were not very pretty, but the children would make decorations and place them on the small and scraggly tree. The children had a great time decorating the poor little tree. They decorated a Christmas tree, and that made them very happy. One Christmas the father could not find any trees alongside of the road, so he decided to climb on the top of an evergreen tree and cut the top off. When he pulled on the treetop to pull it down, the father fell out of the tree and onto his back. He had hurt his back and never did that again. That meant that there would be no Christmas tree for Christmas. The children were very unhappy. They begged and begged for a tree, but Mom and Dad could not afford to buy a tree, and there were no trees alongside of the road, so they could not have a tree that year. The family was sad that they would not have a tree to decorate for Christmas. They had no money for gifts and barely enough money for food, and they had to have some money so they could buy fuel to heat their house so they could all keep warm. So the children would have to live without a Christmas tree that Christmas, whether any of them liked it or not. Purdy was in the dream, too. Purdy was a neighbor to the family. When Purdy heard about the family and their situation, it made him sad. He wanted to help the family, but he did not know how. In his dream, Purdy finally decided that he would try to get a Christmas tree for the family. It was getting close to Christmas, so he had better hurry. Purdy looked for a Christmas tree, but there were none to be found anywhere. He looked and looked and looked, and he looked everywhere. There were no Christmas trees to be found. He saw a train coming down the tracks, and Purdy thought that maybe the train would bring Christmas trees from another town, but it did not. What was Purdy going to do? He wanted that family to have a Christmas tree. Finally, he spoke with Eli Elk. Eli Elk said, "Maybe I look like a Christmas tree with my antlers. What do you think, Purdy?" Purdy said, "Thanks, but you're not colorful enough to be a Christmas tree. That's a great idea, though." Thanks to Eli Elk, Purdy had an idea. In Purdy's dream, it was Christmas Eve. The family was enjoying a quiet evening at home with no gifts and no Christmas tree. As Purdy gazed through their window, the family was watching television and talking and laughing and seemed to be enjoying their Christmas Eve without a tree or gifts. They were making the best of a bad situation. Besides, he could not change the fact that they had no money for gifts or for a tree, so what else could they do? Purdy wanted to surprise the family with a gift of his own. The family heard a tap on the window and went to investigate. They opened the door and could not believe what they saw. Purdy Peacock was in full display and looked just like a Christmas tree. He shook his tail with delight for the family. The family was thrilled. They laughed, and the children exclaimed, "We have a Christmas tree after all, and it's the best Christmas tree we could have ever dreamed of." Thank you for making this the best Christmas ever," the family said. "We couldn't have asked for more." Purdy kept on dreaming about the family without a Christmas tree.